I think your sound is muted on the computer.
Okay. Let's see, is that better?
Yep, that's better, thanks.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are in Derech Hashem, right? We're traveling now through the world, try to experience and walk with Hashem, which actually, as we mentioned last week, it appears in this week's parasha. Hashem says he chose Avraham because he knows that he will train his children and his household to walk in the ways of Hashem. So, as we mentioned last week also, that this book is divided into three main sections, even though there are four sections. But the first section is the section of the foundations, right? The foundations of reality, and an introduction to the main topics that we will be discussing throughout the book. But again, the book's structure deals with, there's Hashem and there's us, and then there's the meeting point between us. Okay, so like, how do we relate to Hashem? How does Hashem relate to us? And what is that experience like? So we'll be able to know if we're actually having a real experience of God, or is it some kind of weird demon or fantasy or imagination? Okay, so that'll be discussed in section 3. We're going to begin with section 1. As we mentioned also last week in the introduction, that this book was designed for people who already have an inner drive to be with Hashem. Okay, it's not trying to convince you that God exists or to explain the different ways that we come to know Him. That's already done thanks to our forefathers, Avraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. And they passed down this tradition, as we're going to see in this chapter. We're on page 30, by the way. So, you could get there and wait until we catch up. That this book was designed for somebody who is already on the path called Yisrael. Okay, because as the Rambam actually writes in his introduction to one of the chapters that he wrote in the Mishnah, he wrote the commentary on the Mishnah, and there's a chapter in the tractate of Sanhedrin, which is called Chelek, right? And it talks there about who has a portion in Olam Haba, right? It says, Kol Yisrael leishlem Chelek leOlam Haba, right? We all have a portion in Olam Haba, which the Ramchal will discuss only later on. Like, what is this concept of Olam Haba? We'll get to it when we get to it. But he writes there at the introduction that if we don't have 13 basic beliefs, so then we cannot call ourselves Yisrael. Right? He defines Yisrael not as being born to Jewish parents, right? Because you're not automatically, going to heaven just because you happen to be born Jewish. Right? You have to be on the path of Yisrael, and that's why it's also available to people that weren't born to Jewish parents. Right? There's something called Yisrael, and whoever wants could join that path. And even if you were born into it already, you still have to walk that path to earn the title Yisrael. So the Rambam writes that if a person doesn't believe in these 13 things, which appear in a lot of the Sidurim, right, what's called the 13 principles of faith, so then you are not considered Yisrael. Right? You have to work on it, and until you become. That's why he says that we need to every day reignite our emunah, which we're going to discuss today. Like, what is this concept of emunah, and how could you command somebody to believe something they don't believe in? Right? It's kind of like an oxymoron. So he tells us here the first 3 words is called Ish mi Yisrael. Okay, so first of all, you have to be in control of yourself. The concept of Ish doesn't necessarily mean man, right? There are 4 different terms that are used in Tanakh to describe a human being. Okay, actually, I'll write them down quickly on the board so you have these. It's a point of reference.
Maybe if you open the window. Yeah. Should I open it? You want to open the window?
Okay, so these are 4 different terms, which you can see it in Zoomland. Okay. 4 different terms that describe the different levels of development of us as humans. Okay, we all begin on the level that's called Enosh. Enosh just means humanity, right? Where there's no focus on the individuals, just that, happen to be born human, we're all humans. And if you change the vowel, actually, Anush means hopeless, right? When they say somebody is in a situation where it's basically...
Yeah, like Midreshet is desperate. Is it the same?
That's Yi'ush, yeah. So, I mean, it's a little bit related, yeah. But the word Enosh is used again. It means humanity as a whole, but also when somebody, God forbid, is very sick, it's called matzav anush, right? He's in a hopeless situation. Basically, we're just counting the days and the minutes until they're no longer with us. So the level of, when somebody is on the level of Enosh, means that they don't really know who they are, right? They just feel like I'm just another human being on earth, just like everyone else. And they have to look, how to survive. And David HaMelech actually teaches us a nice thing. There's a pasuk that says, Yayin yisamach levav enosh. Okay, if you're living on the situation that you feel that, what's the point? What am I doing here? Who am I? So it says, have a little bit of wine. Right? Yayin samach levav enosh. If you're on the level of enosh, so then you have a little bit of wine, and then you start feeling like, actually, life isn't so bad after all. And you start opening up your mind, and you start getting ideas and having all these dreams of and hopes, which then leads to the next level, which is called the gever, right? Or for a woman, geveret, which is somebody who already has some kind of identity, and that they have control over their emotions. Okay, that's they're not just like every little thing that happens, they get knocked out of their comfort zone. Right, so from the word gibor, right, somebody that has inner strength, that they're able to overcome certain temptations, but they're not yet on the level of a tzaddik, right? Actually, it's interesting because the concept of gibor sort of parallels what the Tanya calls a benoni. Right, a benoni is somebody who's on the path to learning how to master all of their emotions and their thoughts and their actions, but they're not there yet. Right, they don't actively do anything wrong, but they still have thoughts about doing things wrong. As opposed to the tzaddik, every thought he has is totally God, God, God all the time. And that's a level of ish. Okay, a level of ish means that your soul is in control of you. Right? As it can be broken up into 2 words, like aleph is a allusion to the soul, the aleph, the oneness, and it controls over the yesh, right, which is my being. Okay, so a person who's on the level of ish, as for example, it calls Moshe Rabbeinu an Ish Elokim.
Why
right?
do you say it's illusion?
In English?
Why do you say it's an illusion?
Is what?
An illusion.
Oh, an illusion? Wait, which one did I say illusion?
Allah.
Oh, no, it's illusion. Illusion means that it hints at something else. Yeah.
Illusion.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry, so the aleph is controlling the yesh. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So that's Ish, or for a woman, Isha. Where the person is completely in control of everything, all their kelim, their body, their heart, their mind. Right, that's a very, very high level. And then the highest level is called Adam, which is when you are unified with everyone else also. All right, so for example, when it says Adam in the Torah, it doesn't refer to Adam versus Eve, it refers to the unit together. All right, so that when Hashem created male and female, he called them Adam. Okay, Adam is the name for when you're just flowing with everyone, not just that you're in control of yourself, you actually are able to interact with people, and that's the highest level.
So there's a level higher than a tzaddik?
Yeah. I mean, again, tzaddik is also, I guess there's, as we're going to see in section 2, chapter 3, talks about different levels of tzaddikim. Right? There's a tzaddik that's totally in control of his own life, but he's not really accessible to others. Right? He can't be like a leader. Like you have throughout the generations, you have even nowadays, there's all these like tzaddikim, but they can't really relate to people.
And the ones that relate are become Adam.
Yeah, in a sense. That's why it says Moshe Rabbeinu was able to relate to everyone, because he saw how they were all one. Right? He saw himself in everyone, and he saw everyone in himself. And that's why, for example, like Adam Harishon, before he was able to meet Chava and become unified with her, he had to first recognize within himself all the different levels of animal nature. Right? That's why he gave names to all the animals. Right? We read in the Parsha a few weeks ago. But when Hashem says, okay, I need to introduce Adam to his wife, right? Actually, I split them up, right, so that they could see each other. But before he can do that, he has to first realize that he actually needs her, so that and wants her and asks for her. Right? Hashem doesn't just give us things that we don't recognize, because then if you give somebody a gift that they're not ready for, they're going to abuse it or not treat it properly, and eventually lose it or abuse, abnormal use. So Adam had to recognize and give names to all the animals, because he realized that all of these different instincts that are in the world, Hashem created also within me. And if I can't control them, then I better not take upon myself to be in a relationship. Right? If I can't control my lion and my cat and my mouse and my dog and all, et cetera, within myself, so then it's going to come out whenever I get triggered in a relationship. Okay, so Adam is the perfect, unified, in control of everybody, one step up above Ish. Okay, so here he begins the book by saying, Kol Ish mi Yisrael. Okay, this is somebody that wants to stay on the path of Yisrael. Yisrael also is made up of two words, Yashar El, right, straight to God. Right, I'm not looking for anything else in this world. I'm looking for God in everything that I do. When I eat, when I sleep, when I go to work, when I'm talking to people, like I want to only see God, not get distracted by all of these things. So in order to do that, you have to be on the level of Ish, right, or at least pray to be on that level. Right? Remember, I had a rabbi, rest in peace, Rav Nathan Siegel, and he used to say, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're just not in the mood to pray, right? Or you finish something, and after you're eating, you're too tired, and you don't have energy to say properly the grace on over meals, Birkat Hamazon. So he says, at that moment, ask Hashem to please give you strength to pray, and if it still doesn't happen, say, please give me a desire to at least want to pray. And if that doesn't work, just keep taking steps back. Please give me a desire to want to pray. And then eventually your prayers will be answered. Because that itself is already the beginning of prayer. You're turning to Hashem, but this is difficult for me, I need help.
Is there Rabbi Nachman say that?
Also, it's based on that, yeah. He was very into Breslov, this rabbi. His name was Rav Natan, so not necessarily Natan from, but. Okay, so Kol Ish mi Yisrael. Ish, again, as Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan points out, spiritual goals are infinite, right? They're simply a direction, right? You point yourself towards something, like you want to become a tzaddik, right? Doesn't mean you're ever going to necessarily be a tzaddik, because especially the tzaddikim, they realize there's always more to do. Right? As we're going to see also very shortly, that the concept of emunah is something that is constantly developing. You can't just say, yes, I believe in God. Right, because whatever you believed yesterday, today you're a different person. So you have to believe more or differently. Okay, so what he writes here again. So this book is assuming that you are already on the path of Yisrael. You want to get closer to Hashem, and you are at least trying to work on yourself to be in control of your actions, your speech, your emotions, and your thoughts. So then, once that happens, then sarich sheyamin v'yeda. So then you're going to notice. He's telling us an interesting psychological process here, right? There's we'll talk about in chapter 2 the concept of free will, but here he talks about the necessity, right? If you are Yisrael, then you have necessities, you have needs, and the needs that we have are to believe and also to experience, right? To know that there is a being who is accessible, that is the beginning of everything, the end of everything, created everything, maintains everything, and there's nothing other than him. Okay, so what is this concept of? I just want to focus on these three words for a second. Sarich she'amin v'yeda. When we're going to learn about free will, it's going to also talk about three different levels of free will, but the first and most common one is called ratzon. Okay, somebody asks you, what do you want? Right, you're free to want whatever you want. Right, you could want to go to sleep, you could want to wake up, you could want to eat, you could want whatever you want. We're going to see later that the nature of free will is not about just choosing something that you prefer. Like if you tried 3 different kinds of ice cream, and then the next time I say, what kind of ice cream you want, you'll say the one that you enjoyed the most. Right? That's not called free will. That's called, I had experience of this already and I want it again. Okay, free choice means that at any moment you have the opportunity to choose the other way. Okay, like one day, every time you wake up, it says, for example, that just because you kept Shabbat once doesn't mean that you just keep doing it automatically. You have to choose every week to keep Shabbat. Otherwise, it doesn't count as a mitzvah. It won't get you closer to God if you're doing it out of habit. That we'll discuss when we get to the chapter on.
And there's no value in it?
There is value, yeah, because at least you're not slipping backwards. You're not moving forward
You're
either.
not doing a real fast step.
Right.
Sorry, are you in the middle of a sentence? I'm trying to. Are we in the middle of saying that every ish, meaning anyone who wants his olive to control his soul to control his body and wants to believe that there's a being, he should what? I'm trying to understand this. Or are you saying every person has to believe that there's a God? Is that what this is saying?
No, so let's go back a step. Okay, this book is already coming to people that believe in Hashem as creator.
Okay.
Okay, but not necessarily that is involved in my life. That's the mitzvah of emunah.
Okay.
Right? You can't command somebody to believe in a commander. Right? It doesn't work. You know, you have to believe that there is somebody that has authority over you. You know, I don't believe that. I mean, I do personally, but you know, people that are what's called like atheists or agnostic, right? Yeah, antagonist, agnostic. Right? That they're not sure, so that means that so the whole concept of Torah and mitzvot won't apply to them. You know, it's like they have to first recognize and accept that there is a creator. You know, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Doesn't start with mitzvot. Right? Rashi asks on the first pasuk, why not start? If this is the book of instruction, so why not start with the mitzvot? Mitzvot don't come until much later. You know, like 2,448 years later, to be exact. Right? That 2488. Sorry, 2488 was Har Sinai. Right? Before that, there were traditions passed down from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And actually, Chazal teach that.
Now it's starting.
Okay. Now we're restarted. Yeah. No, we were on before. It got knocked off for a moment. Okay.
Anyone who's reading this, so anyone who's reading this is already believing that a God created the world. But let's say they don't necessarily believe Hashem is still involved in our lives today. For that, we're now discussing.
Yes. Okay. So actually, he has another book called Da'at Tevunot, which has two different translations in English. One's called The Way of Reason, and the other one I forgot what it's called. They made a new translation a couple years ago, and they changed the title of the book even. That discusses more the concept of believing that God's involved in our lives. Okay, but we're going to see that section 2 focuses more on the concept of hashgacha, like how is Hashem intervening? Like how is he involved within our lives? But here it's saying that first of all, the first thing that we need is something called emunah. Emunah actually is the highest power of the soul. We discussed this last time, last semester. Learned about the powers of the soul. The highest of the powers of the soul, there are 3 powers of the soul that precede thought. Right? There's the preconscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. The highest level is called emunah, which is the ability to live with the reality that we haven't yet experienced. Okay, I believe this is possible, even though I haven't seen it or felt it or experienced it yet. Like for example, we believe that Mashiach is coming, even though there's not necessarily any indication of that in the world. Right? Or we believe that there is life after the body, right? Even though nobody, came to us and actually told us, yeah, listen. Yeah.
I heard something really nice. I don't know the exact quote, but this concept that like anxiety and emunah, technically, like someone could say, yeah, but emunah is not really rational. It doesn't really make sense. You're having faith in something that you didn't see. And this concept that, anxiety is pretty much the same thing. When we're nervous about something happening, it's something that didn't yet happen that we're nervous is going to happen. And most of us can relate to this feeling of, I'm nervous because what's if I'm anxious about, the same way you could be nervous about something that didn't yet happen and it makes you scared, what's if I could be excited for something or believe in something that didn't happen and it makes me feel good.
Excited and happy, right?
I think that same concept of like believing in something you didn't yet see. I'm nervous that this is going to happen, but it didn't happen, but I'm still nervous. So anyways,
right? Because again, that's the power of the imagination. You can use it for good or for bad.
Right. But I do see, like in general, anxiety isn't something to like strive towards. Like the goal is to get rid of anxiety. So I feel like using that as like a.
But that's the exact point. That's the point. Just like we all, most of us, experience at some point in our lives some form of anxiety, and we don't question. Right, and we tell ourselves it didn't yet happen, so why am I over it? Correct.
Right, so
it's not something we're striving
use
for.
The same like.
True, but the point is like you see.
Oh, Mashiach didn't happen. Why am I striving towards it? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's not a way to believe. Let's say Mashiach. It's more it's more like if I don't want to ever. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to feel foolish for being a believer.
Right.
For me, I'm like I don't want to be foolish. I don't want to be doing it just because it's. Yeah, but are you?
Right.
We all have things that. The point is, we all have things that we think of that didn't yet happen that we think might happen. So what if we could just think it will be the good thing?
Right.
That's all.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, our automatic reactions to things, affect the way that we feel and think.
Right.
So then we have the Torah that comes and says you could control that. Because again, anxiety usually is like the result of not having emunah,
Right.
right? Not believing that something good is going to happen. Like you leave your house and you're like, oh no, is there going to be a bomb on the bus? Chas v'sholom, or like Hashem is with you. Like relax, don't worry. Hashem loves you. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to you, right? But we have there's paths that we need to go on, not put ourselves in danger if we know that it's dangerous, and also to believe that everything is in His control. We just have to do the best that we can. You want to say something?
If that's like really I don't know, I think there's so many bad things that happen to so many people that don't deserve it. If we just have that mindset, like Hashem is looking out for us, like we're all gonna find everything to be okay, and then something's not okay, then what? Like Hashem is looking out for us.
But that's what I was just gonna say. I was gonna say that sometimes people get on buses and they say, I believe in Hashem, there's gonna be a movement today, Hashem takes care of me mostly, and then they get killed.
Yeah.
So what about those people? What about the Holocaust? It's the same type of thing,
Why do
but it's
that?
all lack of Muna, because if you believe that Hashem, every single thing that He does is only good, even if you can understand it, for some reason that was the best thing for that person. If you believe that Hashem only does good things, and that thing was actually just a good thing. We don't understand what that means, because that's what looks bad, but our perception of bad is what we think is
I know,
bad.
but sometimes maybe a good thing for the world is a bad thing for me. Like,
Right, but that's a bad thing for you. It's not a bad thing, it's just about the way you think about it.
I also think we're not necessarily meant to look at other people and let them know how their bad thing is really good, but for us it's a good message to have.
So we'll get
We're
to
not gonna
that.
look at someone else.
Let's rein it back in so we don't run out of time.
That'd be good.
Yeah, these are amazing
We're in our
conversations.
situation, I can know Hashem wants.
The most awesome thing about this book is that it gets you to have, it's a conversation starter.
Right.
You'll read one sentence and you can talk about it for hours. But let's try to at least get through
You see, you said
one
this all the time,
chapter.
that Emunah is the ability to live with what? The belief that something you didn't even see can still happen.
To live with a reality they haven't yet experienced.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay, as opposed to that means I already experienced it. Like I know that I'm sitting here in this chair. As opposed to when I woke up this morning, I believed that I would want at what certain points in this chair, even though things could have happened on the way to prevent me from doing that. But we're going to see also that we're going to get the tools and the abilities to be able to analyze ourselves when he's going to talk about how Hashem judges people. We cannot use that at all to understand why things happen to others. Okay, only to ourselves. Okay, we can never start to judge and say, "Whoa, that person got cancer because da 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 da." Right? We have no permission to do that. There's only one true judge in the world, and Hashem gave us the faculties of judgment so we could judge ourselves. So we can work on ourselves. Something bad happens to ourselves, then we can analyze it and try to figure out why did this happen to me? Because I know myself, and Hashem is treating me based on who I am. I don't know that person. Okay, I can't judge them based on. Because our default is to judge people based on our own standards. That this is so easy for me. What's your problem? Why are you struggling with it? Things like that. So we can't do that. Okay, so just take it one step back again. So we have the three powers of the soul, which are above rationality, above thought. The highest one is called emunah. The next one is called oneg, which is pleasure. Okay, the things that give me pleasure won't necessarily give you pleasure, right? It's something that you can't explain. Like, why do you like that? I don't know. I just do. What is it about this song that gets me excited, and that other song makes me all weirded out? But the other person loves that song, right? So that's also something that's not explainable. And then the third one is called ratzon. Okay, ratzon is what I want, and that actually over time can be analyzed because ratzon trickles into our minds. I'm not sure why I want that. I want to brew beer. Why? Well, I have to think about it, and then I could explain it to you of how I got to that, or how it actually manifested in my life. But to explain to somebody else why I wanted to do that, first I need to understand it myself. But the point is, what he's trying to teach us here, now psychologically, is that as soon as you decide that you want something, so then it automatically, a whole list of necessities pop up. Let's say I decide I want to go to the makolet. All right, that's I know where it is. I need to walk there. I need to have money, and stuff like that, right? So just wanting something doesn't make it happen. When you close your eyes, I want Mashiach now. Where do you go? Right? So once you realize that you want something, so then you will have all these different necessities that pop up. Okay, you want to go to the beach, you need a way to get there. And if you don't fulfill the needs of manifesting your desires, so then you start to go into debt. Right? Go into debt meaning you start owing things either to yourself or to others, which is the concept of what's called obligations. Okay, look, if I want to raise a family, then I need to support them. I need to work on my emotions so I can deal with my kids. And if not, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get into debt, so to speak. Not just physical debt, but also emotional debt, intellectual debt. It's called chov. Yeah.
Sorry, the 3 levels of desire, I don't get how Amuna is a level. Did you see
They're not levels of desire, no.
No, that's what.
No. Desire is one thing.
Oh, that's what.
These are the 3
Yeah.
levels of.
Those are the 3 highest powers of the soul. Power in Hebrew also means potentials, abilities. Yeah. Okay, we have to activate them. There's something called to bring your koach. In Hebrew, it's called koach. You have to bring it out into po'al, you have to activate them. Okay, we all have the power, the ability to believe in whatever we want to believe in. And we're going to see when it talks about free will that we have actually free will on 3 different levels also. But that's see that for next chapter. Okay, but here just introducing, listen, this is the first sentence of the book. You're on the path of being an ish of Yisrael. So you need emunah and dat. Okay, and he adds your dat, which most other books don't add. It's not enough just to believe, you have to experience. Don't just say, I believe in God. It has to affect the way that you behave and also the way you interpret the things that happen to you. And he explains again that they constantly, once you experience what you believed in, then you believe in the next level. And then you experience that too, keep believing like it's infinite. Because as we pointed out before, a spiritual goal is infinite. Right? You want to get closer to Hashem, you can never say, oh, now I'm close. Now I could take a break. I kept Shabbos for 20 years, now I could take a break. I don't have to keep it anymore. I've achieved my goal of keeping Shabbos. Right? The same thing with breathing. You can't say I breathed enough this morning, I don't have to breathe the rest of the day now. Or drinking and eating, I ate so much on Shabbos, I don't have to eat for a month now. Like all these things are a reminder that we need to constantly replenish, because the soul itself is never satisfied. It's interesting. It says that the soul is never satisfied by anything that is this worldly, right? It doesn't get any pleasure at all from eating. Eating is the glue that keeps the soul in the body. If I didn't eat, my soul would leave the body. That's called death. If you starve yourself to death, basically the soul is like, well, the car broke down, I need to go now. There's nothing I can do here. Right? So we eat only to maintain the connection between body and soul, not because the soul gets any enjoyment from it, except for, as we're going to see on Shabbat, when we get the chapter about Shabbat. Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting because I had a conversation with a friend about what's the only thing that you can do and continue to do that you won't get sick of and bored of in any way. Like something that is you could just keep doing, and the only thing we came to was learning, and then not learning learning to love is like the thing that we could just keep doing, and you never feel like you're taking away from something. It's always just continual and growing in that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, there are 6 constant mitzvot, 24/7.
Right.
Right. Learning isn't one of them. Right. Because there's certain times you can't learn. Sometimes you need a break. Right.
Right. Like physically, but I'm saying like spiritually, emotionally.
Spiritually, like you can never get tired of it. Right.
Right.
It could be like, okay, I need a little break now to absorb and
Right.
to.
I need to sleep and eat.
I need to chew on it. No, to chew on the Torah. Right. I need to digest it. Okay, so now let's just move on a little bit. Okay, so he's going to talk about in the next remaining book. He won't mention the word emunah anymore. Okay, so everything starts from emunah, but the most important thing is da'at. Okay, you need to know God. It's not enough just to say, I believe in God, I feel him in my heart, and I'm going to go walk around in the world and do as I please. Okay, so the first thing we need to know about Hashem is that he is accessible. Okay, so the first level of emunah is not just that Hashem exists, but he's present and available to interact with. Right? He's here with me and for me. And then also Rishon Kadmon V'Nitzchi, right? That he is beyond space, time. Right? He preceded time.
Where are we in the book?
Page 30, first paragraph.
Oh, still.
Yeah, we're talking more than we're reading. So. Okay, that Hashem is beyond time. And everything that exists in physical reality comes only from him. There's no other medium. Okay, and he is what we call Aleph Lamed Vav He, which means he is the name Aleph Lamed means direction. Right? And Yolech El Ha-Teva, El Hayam. Right? El means direction. It also means power and ability. And Vav He is to be connected to ourselves and to our surroundings. Okay, so Hashem is the one that gives us direction and teaches us how to connect to ourselves and to Him and to our surroundings. And then it has here in parentheses Baruch Hu. The concept of Baruch means He is constantly expanding. Right, whenever you say when you say Baruch Hashem, basically what you're saying is that you are blessing Hashem, that more people should be aware of Him and understand Him on a deeper level. That's what Baruch means. I was going to say that the word Baruch comes from the word Brecha, which is like a pond, a pool that constantly is being filled and sharing its water with others. So too we say Baruch Hashem or Baruch Atah Hashem every time we say a blessing, that may it be your will that when I drink this water, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam She'akol Mehi Bidvaro.
Amen.
And now more people should be aware of you. But Chazal teach when you say a blessing on something, so it affects the water now in the entire universe. So when somebody now drinks water in Johannesburg or New York, they might actually get a thought of God because I just blessed the water.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's a nice little thing. It actually says in the Talmud, if somebody drinks or eats without a blessing, he's robbing the world of God. Yeah.
He's robbing the what?
He's robbing the world of God. And he's robbing God because it's Hashem's. Who said you could just take his water? You know, you gotta.
But that part I don't love because the first one I think is beautiful. I don't really like. Hashem also put us in this world without a choice, or whether or not we could go into that a different time.
Yeah,
But I think Hashem put people into this world, so when you create things, to some degree, you have to sustain them. That's what I believe, to some degree. The fact that Hashem gives us extra and abundant amount, that is like we could be eternally grateful. But when a mother creates a child, actually not giving them breakfast is called neglect and abuse. So I do think that to some degree, I know, but whenever we say Hashem doesn't have to give us the gorgeous, blessed lives that we have, but I do believe that to some degree, if He put us in this world, it wouldn't be so abusive. It would be kind of not okay to not
sure.
live.
But that's only until a certain level. He'll raise us as long as we're still children. But He expects us to become mature and recognize that He's really the owner. You know, like we train our kids to say thank you for the meal, but how often do they actually do that? Right?
Right, no, of course we should say thank you, and when our parent makes us breakfast, of course we should say thank you. But if they didn't, it wouldn't be okay. This is my...
Okay, yeah. Once again, according to the halacha, we'll talk about this maybe a little bit later in a different context, but there are different levels of spiritual development, right? There's one called 9 years old, your 10th year, getting into this field. And once you get into 10, you're expected to be more independent. Right? So up until the age of 9, parents are obligated to give the children everything they need. From that point on, it's called tzedakah. That's the point of the halacha. That's it. Now, they're not obligated to, because in the olden days they would go out and work already by the time they were 9. To learn how to start, on your own. Not get married yet, but to learn how to. I mean, you see like in countries where they don't really have schools, the kids are out working with their father in the fields or with their mom, and
That's just like a very outdated concept in like a third world country.
no. Again, it's a spiritual level. It's not a physical age. Yeah. Like once you develop through the 9 first stages of spiritual development, once you get to 10, then you're already in a whole new phase of life. You see a lot of 60-year-olds are still acting like they're 8. So again, it's not a physical age. Not to say like your kids are 9, okay, happy birthday, bye. Right? You see some kids, are stuck home till they're 30. They need to grow up. And the parents will continue to.
Until you're spiritually 10.
Yeah.
So how do you know if you're spiritually?
We'll get to that when we get to section 3. That talks about the spiritual development. Okay, again, we have to try to go through the book in order. Otherwise, it's going to be very scattered, and we'll never make it anywhere. Okay, paragraph 2. Finally made through the first paragraph. Now, od tzarich sheyeda. Okay, so once you have this first experience, because again, you could pause after paragraph 1 and then work on it for a month. Because it says that you have to have this belief that Hashem is accessible, and then, as Rabbi Nachum would say, okay, now go out and talk to Him. Try to see Him in your life. And as you said that, I think we mentioned in last week's class, that I remember I had a rabbi once, his name was Erez Gazit. And he says, if you open the book of mitzvot, right, so then every mitzvah has to have some kind of, technical, practical way to fulfill it, right? They say the book, you have a mitzvah called Shabbat, right? You have to know how to keep it. So there's a mitzvah called emunah. How do you do that? What does it mean? Just to like say, I believe, like raise your hand, I believe in the Lord. Like that's not the actual activity of the mitzvah of emunah. So he teaches emunah is to see the Oman in earth. Oman is the artist, the creator. Okay, it's like when you look at a picture, you could try to like sense, somebody made that. There's a part of their personality is now in that picture. Right, listen to a song, it wasn't just, nowadays you never know, it's all AI, but you hear a song, like you try to like, feel and experience the artist, the author. So too, when you look at this world, you look at trees, you look at the sky, the art of emunah is to be able to see the hands of the creator, to see like that's his paintbrush, making this happen every single moment. So that's the first paragraph of Derech Hashem, that we need to not just believe that Hashem created the world, because that is not a command. Right? The Rambam said that's not a mitzvah. That's a foundational prerequisite to even speaking Torah. Right? If there's no creator, so then there's nothing to talk about anybody that has authority over me to tell me what to do. The second thing now he says, now once you have that emunah, now there's going to be different levels of da'at. Okay, you have to make sure that you don't think Hashem is something that he's not. Okay, a lot of people say, I believe in God, and then all of a sudden they paint all these weird pictures about him, and or believe that he comes into human beings, and that's how a lot of different religions happen, or that he's actually in the tree, you have to worship the tree, like all these different things, or the sun, the moon. So first of all, he says here, now in paragraph 2, Od Tzevich Sheida, now along this path of absorbing your experiences of Hashem and getting some kind of knowledge and experience of him, we have to realize Shahamatsui Hazeh Yitvarach Shemo, that this being, again, Matsui means that he exists, but also Matsui means that he can be found. So you have to remember that Mitziut means something that is accessible to us, it can be found. So Ein Amitat Mitziuto Museget Zulato Kla. He is the only one that has a full understanding of who he is. Right? There's no way that we can grasp him in our minds. But Rakze no Dabo, but what we could experience and know about him, Shehu Matsui Shalem B'chol Minei Shlemut V'lo Nimtza Vo Chisaron Klal. Okay, and it was passed down from the prophets and our predecessors that there's the main difference between humans and Hashem is that we are in a constant state of lacking, and Hashem never lacks anything. Okay, he doesn't act out of necessity, out of, as we're going to see, he's going to talk about the concept of being independent. As opposed to humans, we are dependent. I need air. Can't get past that. I need sleep. And as we're going to see, I need God. I need friends. I need people to share with. But it's interesting that the word chaser, we're going to see that no matter how much you eat, you still need to eat the next day, right? So we're in a constant state of lacking. And there's a beautiful teaching by Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler, written in a book called Strive for Truth, where he writes that the essence of prayer is to choose what lack to focus on. Then when you focus on that lack, that's when you're able to open up to Hashem and ask him to help you fulfill it.
What is the name of the book?
Strive for Truth.
You can only ask for one.
At a time. Then you could pause and pray for another thing. Like Shemona Esrei, there's a lot of different things we're asking for. But in the olden days, it would take them 3 hours to say Shemona Esrei. Right? Because it's a whole big... Rabbi Nachman actually teaches also, like during Hidvodudut, if you are really lacking something in your life, so then you should spend at least 10 minutes a day just talking to Hashem about that one thing. Spend 10 minutes on one thing. Let's say you want to get married. Let's say you want somebody to want to be healthier, or whatever it happens to be. Spend 10 minutes a day just focusing on it and talking to Hashem about it. Don't just say, Hashem, please help me find my zibut, and then go away. It's not like you go online and order something, click, and then wait till it shows up.
If you really want it, you'll find 10 minutes.
Yeah. If you can invest 10 minutes a day, then you don't want it bad enough. Right? And but basically what we'll see is when we get to prayer that Hashem doesn't always necessarily respond to our prayers by giving us what we ask for. We're not like little children, hey Dad, could I have the keys to the car? You might say no. Go out and work and buy your own car. Right? So as Rabbi Nachman also teaches that every time you pray, it's like putting, a shekel into the pushka, into the piggy bank. And some things that we're asking for are very expensive. So we have to keep praying for it again and again and again, every time until it's full. Like, okay, now. But also the idea is that when you see that you're not getting what you pray for, so then you have to change the way you're praying. You have to ask Hashem, please help me discover what's interfering with my ability to have what I'm asking for, and let me work on that instead. You know, it's like if you want to go somewhere, then again, you have to, there's steps. You can't just snap your fingers and get there. Okay, so the concept of like focusing on what's lacking, and also as we're going to see as we get more mature in our prayer, we're not asking Hashem to give it to us. We're asking Him to help us do it on our own. You know, it's like, Abba, could you help me with my homework? Don't do it for me. You know, like, could you help me learn how to ride a bike? I want to be able to ride a bike on my own, as opposed to you always give me a ride. You know, or teach me how to drive. So when we're praying to Hashem, we're asking Him to teach us how to do certain things, in a sense, or how to assist us. I mean, there are certain things, because as we just saw this week's Parsha, with Lot, right? Lot was saved not because of his own merit. It's because of Avraham Avinu, right? And it says that when there's two ways that Hashem could intervene in our lives, we're going to see in section 2, either through angels or directly, right? And through angels is something that is a little bit more dependent on our merit, right? Because the angels are programmed to do only certain things. There's nature, right? Hashem won't just change nature because I beg Him enough. You know, say, please, I want to fly. I've been trying my whole life. You know, just let me fly already. Right? That's not going to happen. But if when Hashem does something that is not based on our merits, so then He pushes nature aside because there's something He needs done in the world. Like, for example, the splitting of the sea. It's not like we merited to, like, you know, we just left Egypt, you know, like literally, and we were complaining already, you know, at the sea, like, oh God, please, what are we going to do? They're chasing us. They're about to kill us. All right, so He says, okay, listen, you're not ready yet. Like a little child, I'll pick you up and carry you. Okay, but you have to grow up and learn how to walk on your own. Okay, so again,
Which one would you say is higher?
higher, it depends on what element in life. In other words, the higher one is actually to be within nature and live with Hashem.
And have the angels.
Because Hashem also has angels that override nature. Right, as opposed to, we're going to see, but sometimes, it says, for example, that Avraham was treated with Hashem within nature. That's why Hashem had to teach him, you know, the whole concept with, you know, what happened in Sodom. You know, to teach you how and why I'm doing this, because I treat people based on how they behave. Right? If not, it says, for example, you see, like the wicked people, Hashem overlooks their, jumping ahead to section 2, okay, never mind. No, there are times when you have to overlook people's mistakes because they're not ready to learn the lesson yet. So I'm not going to let nature take its course, so to speak. Okay, now Devarim Ela Yeda'anum B'Kabbalah Ben Ha'avot Ben Nevi'im. So the ideas that we're discussing in this book is not something that people made up, right? It was passed down through prophecy, through the experiences of our forefathers. Ve'sigum Kol Yisrael B'Ma'amad Har Sinai. Okay, and every single soul of the Israelite nation actually had a clear picture of these things at Har Sinai. V'amdu al amitatam b'veirur, right? And they had a very, very clear picture of what's going on. V'limadum livnehem dor achar dor kayom hazeh, and it's been passed on from generation to generation, non-stop since then. Shekein siva Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom mipi hagvura, because after all, this is something that Moshe Rabbeinu told us to do in the Torah, when it says, Pen tishkach et hadavarim asher ra'u einecha v'hoda'atam levanecha v'levnei venecha. You have to be careful not to forget the things that you've seen with your own eyes, and make it known to your children and to your grandchildren, etc., etc., etc. Right? That the experiences that we have, as the Ramchal writes in his other book, Mesilat Yesharim, right, the Path of the Just. He writes there that nature, physical nature, is in a constant state of deterioration. Right? The world is always breaking down. Right? I don't know how often it takes, but I think your skin is new skin every 3 days. Your liver every 30 days is a whole new liver. Right? Cells are constantly dying and being regenerated. So, like, literally, you're a new person almost every. I don't remember how long it takes. Your stomach lining takes 7 days. So if you didn't eat properly on Shabbos, don't worry, you have a new stomach next week. Right? If you overdid it or whatever. All these different things, yeah, like all the organs of our body. That's why they said that the liver, even though sometimes people chas v'shalom get different types of ailments, there's there's hope, because the whole thing about prayer is that you should focus on not adding more negative stuff to it, so let it heal itself, right? Or to see what's lacking for your body to be able to heal itself. But again, so for example, he said the nature of our brain is that the memories get forgotten. So we have to constantly remind ourselves. There are people that have photographic memories, which is a gift from Hashem. Could also be a curse, because they can't forget bad things that happen to them, right? They just like stick and make their impression. But it says, for example, that the Rambam writes, how do you know when you succeeded in doing teshuvah properly? Is when you can no longer even remember the mistake that you made.
Wow.
Yeah. That you've so uprooted it from your identity that you have no more memory of it even. Right? If I still remember what I did as a little child, it's because I still have to work on it and fix it. And if I remember what I did to my previous, girlfriends or teachers or kids in my class, right? There was a story once about Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom. He was, I think, about 80 years old at the time. And he had a driver, right? Because he used to just sit and think Torah all day long, so he couldn't focus on driving. So he had a driver, he used to drive him around. And all of a sudden, like a little ball went into the street, little children chase their toys when they fall into the street. So the driver had to slam on the brakes, and Rav Moshe bumped his head on the dashboard. And then he sat there like this for a while. And the driver was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, he was getting concerned, like he's rubbing his head. And then finally he's like, oh, okay. And he smiled. He said, what was that all about? He says, well, Chazal teaches us that nothing happens to us in this world unless we deserve it. Right? It says every time you bump your finger, every time you stick your hand into your purse to pull out something and you pull out the wrong thing, that's some kind of judgment. So he's trying to figure out, like, why did I just bump my head? Like, what did I do? And I was trying to think, maybe I was, did I have a bad thought? Did I, and he's like, I finally remember when I was 9 years old, there was one time when the teacher asked a question and I wanted to show off that I knew the answer. I'm like, ooh, I know. And I never did tshuva for that, being arrogant. So basically, he couldn't remember anything from the age of 9 until 80 that he did wrong. That bumped his head. Because they say, like, if you ever see a tzaddik, somebody who's righteous or on the path of Hashem, doing something wrong, you can be guaranteed that they're going to fix it before they go to sleep. Okay? They don't go to sleep without clearing away the day's mistakes. Right? That's also why you have in the Kriyat Shema L'mitah, right? There's the Shema prayer that we say before going to sleep. There's a whole process of doing what's called vidui. You are admitting all the things you did wrong and dedicating yourself to avoid them the next day and to point yourself forward, which again is the first step in Mesilat Yesharim, how to get close to Hashem, is to have a constant daily reckoning of did I pursue my goals enough? Did I do something wrong that I shouldn't have done? And set yourself straight before going to sleep. Okay, so then since we have in our nature forgetfulness, so when we experience something meaningful, we have to constantly remind ourselves, and the best way to remind ourselves is by telling it to others. By telling stories to our children, not just our children, because for example, there's the mitzvah, v'higara levincha, right, to tell the story of leaving Egypt to your children at the Seder table. And then the halacha says, well, what if you don't have children? Right, that's not fair. How could Hashem command something that if it's not possible to keep it? So the Kabbalah explains, bincha comes from the word bina, the part of your brain that understands things. Like constantly review it until you understand it deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So like tell it to yourself. So even if you're sitting at home alone on Pesach, you still tell the story, read the Haggadah to make it more impressionable on yourself. Okay, then you just let's finish up quickly here. We just have a minute left. So Omnam Gam Yisad HaChakira. Okay, we're still now on the bottom of page 30. B'muftim halimudiyim ye'amtu kol ha'ininim ha'ela. Okay, all these things that we accept through our belief system, he's saying that if you were actually a smart person, you could discover all of these truths also by just analyzing nature, right, and science. That's what Avraham Avinu did. He said that he was like the greatest scientist of his day, and he discovered God through observing nature and astronomy and chemistry and physics. Right? All the natural sciences also if you study them honestly, will point to that there's a creator who's actively involved, and not just something that's a folklore from the olden days, but he's maintaining the world also, not just that he created it however long ago and disappeared. So again, they're just going to skip a little bit more. Okay, so you could use science as an introduction, right? But again, since science is based on the senses, so it's also limited. And I remember a long time ago, the scientists admitted, they said, we are here to describe the what and how, but not the why. Okay, we don't know why we have 5 fingers. I could explain to you, how the heart works, but what keeps it pumping, I don't know. Why does it suddenly die? I don't know. Like, I don't know why all these things are happening, and why there's so many different types of flies and mosquitoes and et cetera, et cetera. Now, but that's not the point of this book. We're not going to get into lengthy discussions in science. Okay, my point here is to set the table for you. I'm going to set things out in an orderly fashion, according to the tradition that we have. Okay, we don't have to rely. It says if you want, actually, that's what the Rambam we mentioned last week, that if you want to practice feeling more love for Hashem, so then you should take out some time every day and just meditate on nature, right? On Hashem's amazing works that He's done. But we're talking over here about the things that we received from tradition, and these are things that are well known in our religion. Okay, the word Ummah, we'll just end with this. There are 3 different words that describe a nation. The first one is Goy. Right? Hashem promised Avraham he's going to be a Goy, Gadol Ba'aretz. Goy is just a physical presence of human beings, okay, that happen to live on the same area. Okay, the next level up is called an Am, which means they have a government over them, that they all recognize a certain king, right, or governor or president. And then the final one is an Ummah, which means a religion, right? The same that they have a shared spiritual belief system. You can live all over the world. That's why. So Am Yisrael actually is all 3 of these things, because I connect to my brothers and sisters, in America and in France, through the Ummah aspect of us. Even though we don't have the same king over us, I have, here President Bibi, they have President Trump, and they have whatever, Macron, whatever is the French guy, Macron. So basically, we are also a Goy, we are also a Am, and we are also an Ummah. So he says over here that these things that we're talking about in this book are the things that connect us as an Ummah.
Would you say that Am are people who have a king over them and Ummah is people who have a god, like, over them? The same god? Is that?
I mean, we have all of them.
Meaning you're saying it's a religion, right?
Right, but the level of connection we have is on a religious level as opposed to a physical level. I mean, we have all 3 of them, because right now, the Goy Ba'aretz is only the Jews that live in Eretz Yisrael. Right? The Am, we say Am Yisrael Chai, because we all have Hashem as our king. But also, we're also in Ummah. I mean, we all share the same spiritual beliefs and
But not
hopes.
necessarily. Let's say there's a Jew who doesn't believe this, they're still part of the Jewish nation.
I mean, against their will, yeah, but they won't identify as that. Are you an American Jew or a Jewish American?
No, but I'm saying someone will be Jewish whether or not they believe that God exists or that God is the... Judaism is not based on your belief. Judaism is an identity. Right, it's everything.
Part of it is, yeah. But as we said before, the concept of Yisrael is, as the Rambam, at least according to the Rambam's definition, if you don't believe in the 13 principles of faith, then you're not Yisrael.
I really believe that you can be Jewish and genuinely not believe in God and not believe in the tradition, but you believe in the community.
Yeah, Jewish, but not an Israelite.
Right.
Okay, according to the definition of the Torah. Yeah. I mean, again, there's different words that define different aspects. I could have, a Jewish father, so it makes me Jewish according to the Talmud days, but not anymore. I mean, no, up until the Talmud days. The days of the Talmud, that's when they switched to only the mother. Yeah.
So you used to just have a Jewish father and you were considered...
Used to be, but then there's no guarantee that actually, you don't know, because they say that the mother, you know who it is. The father, you don't know who it is. Yeah. So when they started living certain lifestyles, they couldn't rely anymore on someone says, my father is Jewish. Like, are you sure they're your father?
But spiritually, if, let's say, you know who your father is, then now we obviously...
I mean, now we have DNA and all these things that, they say, actually, in the days of Mashiach, Eliyahu and Nevi will come and tell us all what tribe we're from. Right, so the question is he going to be just a DNA analyst, or if he's going to do it through his Ruach HaKodesh, he could look at somebody and say like, oh, you're from the tribe of Yisachar. Everybody guessed. Right?
No, I'm thinking about like all let's say the Reform or conservative Jews who go based on just father, whereas
Yeah. No, there's something there. There's something there.
It's so
But
interesting.
again, you want to overlap into the next class? Actually, I have gardening. Okay.